Are you guys ready to talk about the dark side of spiritual awakening? The dark side. It's not as dark as you think. It actually can be really dark if you let it. But that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're not going to let it get to the dark side. We're talking about nihilism tonight. And nihilism as a place of kind of saying to yourself, as you realize that nothing is real, why bother? Why am I here? Why am I suffering? I mean, what's the point of even doing this? This is just stupid. All this suffering and people hurting so much and war and famine, and it's just so dark. I just don't even think I want to live through it. Why bother? So that's what we're going to cover today. Stick with me. How's everybody doing tonight? Oh, I got the other camera. We got Atlas in the house tonight. Cool cam shot. Here we go. Trying to improve the production value for you guys. I'm doing my best. I don't know if you noticed, but I had a video go viral today. It was kind of crazy. The one I did about simulation theory is just kind of taken off. I don't really get that many views usually, and it really just took off. So thank you guys for that. Thank you for those shares and likes. See, it really makes a difference. It really makes a difference. And now our playground's just going to get bigger and bigger, and we get to hang out with more people. More other me's. How awesome is that, right? So tonight we're going to talk about nihilism because I was having a conversation with my best friend Jeff. We were watched a concert over the weekend, and he was really kind of putting it together and just kind of throwing his arms up like, why bother? I mean, if nothing's really real, if I'm just dreaming and nothing has got any kind of validity to it, and there's no tomorrow and there's no yesterday, then what's the point? Why bother? Why bother, right? It's a lot of you guys are probably asking that question, right? Why bother? It seems a bit much, doesn't it? When we start breaking everything down and start looking at like reality as it is, when we start stripping away the labels and the names, that I'm not my name, I'm not my occupation, I'm not my race, I'm not my nationality, I'm not all of these things, I'm not my body, I'm not a part of my body, I'm not the cells of my body, I'm not the atoms of my body, right? Then we're kind of left with nothing, right? We're just kind of sitting here going, well, who the hell am I? And why bother with anything? It could be a very nihilistic kind of feeling, right? So this is akin to spiritual teaching taking you to the top of the mountain, right? That's what satsang is. It's to kind of take you all the way to the top of the mountain and let you see over the other side. And the whole way up is just, it's filled with all kinds of danger, and it's scary, and it's frustrating and difficult, but you're like, why am I getting here? What is the point of this? And then you finally get to the top of the mountain, and the Zen master just looks and points, and you just look, and you just take in this whole vastness of reality. And it's so much, it's so incomprehensible that it's very easily to have a nihilistic feeling about that. Why bother? Like, it's hopeless. It's hopeless. So realization is kind of twofold. It is bliss. It is the realization. It is kind of the escape from your prison cell, right? But you get out to realize that you really can't escape the matrix, right? Even if you broke free of prison, you're still on a prison planet, so to speak, right? And it's a hard thing to come by. It's a hard thing to realize. It's a hard thing to reconcile, I should say. And then that comes in the why bother? Why bother? Why bother doing anything at all? Why bother? And it's because it's the sake of the journey. The journey is so much more than just seeing that it's incomprehensible. It's so much more in seeing that you don't exist. It's to show you that life is a playground, which is why I address all of you as my playmates. Life is an eternal, infinite playground, and just play. Just play. The suffering is from all the stuff that culture has put onto you. The suffering comes from all of the expectations in life that you've put on a shelf to say, oh, if I achieve this, then I'm worthy. If I achieve this, that means I've done something. If I've got this, that means I've made my life complete. If I've got married with 2 kids in a house, then I've fulfilled the meaning of life, right? But it's just not true. It's not true. And realizing that all of those things are meaningless makes the whole thing feel meaningless. It makes it all feel meaningless. But it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. And you have to realize that. Realize that this is a chance to wipe the slate clean of what your expectations are of life. And decide for yourself, what do you want your meaning of your life to be? Because it can be anything you want it to be, and as detailed as you wish to make it. What do you want the meaning of your life to be? I don't know. What do I love? What do I love about life? Let's do more of that. That sounds like fun, right? And less of doing these things that the world tells me I should do in order to have happiness. It's no longer putting the things that you think will help you in the future to bring you happiness and feeling nihilistic about that being fruitless, and instead seeing the glass as half full and say, well, there is no thing in the future that can bring me happiness. What brings me happiness right here, right now? What is that? What does that look like? If you can have anything in the world that you want right now, what would it be to make you happy? Can you see the power in that? The complete, utter power in that? And then a lot of times we look around and we get inundated with, the news, and we hear about all the terrible things that are happening in the world. I have another friend. I was being interviewed on a podcast, and my friend Brandon lives on a farm, and he just sees so much death and suffering with animals, and he's not used to that, and I wouldn't be either. That'd be very hard for me. But again, it's to realize that there's no escaping the matrix, and the matrix is reliant on the idea that everything eats everything else eventually. My grandfather tells me a really important thing when I was a little kid, and he told me that this was something that was passed down from his father and his father and his father. It came down all generations of my family. My dad was in the room. This is my dad's opportunity to say it to me. And I was having a really bad time. I don't remember exactly what I did to be having a bad time, but put his hand on my shoulder and just said, "You'll eat. Don't worry, you'll eat. You'll eat." And that doesn't sound like much, but when you really, really think about how profound of an idea that is, that at the end of the day, that's really the source of our biggest fear. It's not death. It's that we go on. It's that we go on. It's that we'll eat. And because everything eats everything else in this Ouroboros kind of cycle, it means you go on forever. You'll always eat. Forever. You'll always eat. You might be fasting for a little time, but you'll always eat. And if you're not eating, you're moving on to another place where you'll be eating something totally different, I'm sure. So let the idea and the fear of death go. There's no death. There's no death. If you experience death, then you're just having the experience of dying so that you can experience being reborn. There's no getting out of the matrix. You're not getting out of here. There was a time where I felt very, very suicidal in my life. Can you believe that? Crazy, right? And the thing that saved me from it was to realize that suicide's not getting you out of anything. The only thing that's going to happen from suicide is you're going to come right back into the dream that you're in right now, and everything that's driving you crazy is going to be just a little bit louder, so you can hear it nice and clear this time. We're here to work on ourselves. We're here to purify ourselves. We're here to renounce all of the bullshit of culture. Renounce all of that. And refine who we are. Refine our sense of being. Refine the being that we want to become. And part of refining the being that we want to become is we first have to decide what we want that being to be. What do you want? You're it. The burden's on you to make yourself happy. You're in a playground. You can do anything you want, and all of the burden is on you to be happy. What's to be sad about that? So a couple of things that happen if you get this vision of the truth with your ego intact, a couple of bad things can happen. I shouldn't say bad things, but you'll be burdened with a struggle that's going to be a little tough to drop. But they also provide a new insight too. So it's not all bad. There's good and there's bad qualities to it. But satsang is a form of spiritual teaching where I'm just simply I'm pointing and I'm throwing you in the deep end. Now, like we're not smoothing this out for you and make it a nice, easy ride. This is just me picking you up and chucking you into the deep end. And hopefully you'll swim. Hopefully you can take it and swim. I'm not going to let you drown. I'm standing here. You're not going to drown. But the idea is to hopefully that you swim. And if you can swim, well, then you can see very clearly what work you have to do to make this a pleasurable experience. And if you can't, then you're going to be having this gnosis with your ego intact. And then a couple of really dangerous things happen when you have your ego intact and you have this glimpse of the truth of the non-reality of things. The first is a messianic complex. If you go into this and you realize who you are, which is the one, you realize that you are God and that there's no one else. It's just you. If the ego grabs a hold of that and says, I am God, everything revolves around me because it's all about me, and I am the center of all. These are all very true things, but they lead to a really dark, dark, dark place. What happens is your ego gets inflated by it, and you're constantly going to be chasing things for your ego to be fulfilled. You haven't left the trap of fulfillment. You haven't left the trap of the ego that it sets for you, that if I get this thing in the future, I will be fulfilled, then I'll be happy, right? You have to break free of that idea completely. And to break free of that completely, you have to let go of the ego that wants things. You have to recognize that the ego is always wanting things, and recognize that this idealistic fulfillment that you think exists only exists here and now. It's the only place it can exist. It can't exist out there. If it does, it's only very temporary. If you won the lottery, it would be ecstatic for maybe a week, a month, maybe the most, right? You travel around, do a lot of crazy, exciting things, but then it would get just as boring as your life is now. There's no fixing that. There's no healing that. What you're asking for is no vibration. And if there's no vibration, then there's no life. So the vibration comes with the territory. The vibration is the matrix. The vibration is the essence of the matrix, and the matrix is an extrapolation of that vibration. It's a fractal, a highly complex fractal of that single vibration. Things are good, things are not so good. Things are good. I'm held, I'm not held. I'm held. I'm eating, I'm not eating. I'm eating, I'm not eating. Right? All these good and bad things, we attribute good and bad, right? Good and bad is good, I'm satiated, I've eaten, I'm satiated, everything is good. And not satiated, not fulfilled is it ever going to come again? It's waiting for the next thing to come from the future. Instead of just being here now, watching the shore come in and out. The waves just go in and out. They come in. It's beautiful. It goes. Is it going to come back? I don't know. Here it comes. Do you see the difference? Can you guys see that? And going into that with the ego will eventually lead you to Satanism, because all of the tenets of Satanism are the bolstering of the ego. It's all of the things we talk about in satsang, all of the freedoms of satsang, but it's grabbed a hold of this ego that it says that I am divine, and it's like this extreme version of my sovereign right to do whatever I want, which are really the tenets of Satanism. But with the ego intact, there's no satiating that, and you just keep going and going and going, and then you're just a slave to your ego. That's not becoming God. That's becoming slave to your ego. And then if you're really into Satanism, and you've been doing it for a while, and you're reading all the books and all the witchcraft and the alchemy, and like I said, magic's real. Magic's real. But magic comes at a price. And then you go, well, I know high magic. I can just sidestep that price. You're still a slave to your ego. You still haven't gained the freedom of telling your ego to go F off. That you don't need anything to be happy, because you already have everything. You're already fully complete without doing anything at all. Nothing needs to be done at all, except to be present. That's it. And observe the world that you have created, with all of its good things, all of its good qualities, and all of its bad qualities. All of it is a reflection of you. This is who you've become. As Gandhi says, be the change you want to see in the world. It's very literal. It's not just a philosophical idea. It's a pure reflection of who you've become. So to me, a better game is, how do I make the world better? There's a way to find some meaning. I can play, which is meaningless, but fun and bliss. And there's nothing wrong with that. Look where we are. This is heaven. Why shouldn't there be bliss? But there can also be a game too, right? Isn't a game bliss? I have fun when I play games. And now the game is refinement. How can I purify this self, this no self, this relationship with no self and self? How can I refine that? How can I catch the ego in action, catch the ego doing its things, watch the ego doing its grabbing, its storytelling, trying to hold on to something? It's quite funny, actually. It's quite humorous. Definitely. So clear your slate of culture. As Terence McKenna says quite often, culture is not your friend. Sit on top of the mountain with me and overlook the entire universe. Just close your eyes and visualize that with me. We've taken this spiritual climb all the way to the top, realizing all the things, all of the non-ness about who we thought we were, realizing all of the non-ness of life and our story, the truth of that we're not our body, the truth of nothing is really real because everything's made of atoms, and atoms are 99% empty space. The truth of we're all just standing on top of a mountain inside of a dream, overlooking an abyss of endless anythingness, endless possibility. And it's quite easy to get overwhelmed with that. It's quite easy just to be like, just to lose all sense of any kind of composure in that state, if you really allow yourself to look at that. Endless not knowing. Endless anything it wants to be. Endless anything you want to be. What does that life look like? If it could be anything you want it to be and as detailed as you wish to make it, what does that look like? Is it filled with things? Or is it filled with ideas? Or is it not filled with anything at all? Just being here. Allowing whatever happens, happens. Allowing whatever happens is meant to happen to just happen. And watching. Realizing the futility of the idea of having any kind of control over anything. The futility of the idea of free will. And it's so interesting how many people argue that in the comment section. We have free will. I'm not saying we don't have free will. I'm not saying that there's no free will. I'm saying that the free will is pointless. It's like having free will in the middle of the ocean. You have no free will. You're going wherever the ocean is taking you. That's it. That's the free will you have. You can swim this way. You can swim that way. But there's no shore. There's no shore to get to. It's just ocean forever. You're perfectly safe. You're perfectly safe, but you do have to swim. Or you could float for a bit if you get good at floating. But find the joy in it instead of finding the terror in it and covering up that terror with things. I'm going to go buy a Porsche. I'm going to go buy this. I'm going to go have this kind of sex. Or I'm going to go travel here. Anything I can do to not think about that. Anything to not think about that vast emptiness. That gigantic thing over that mountain. And you want to hear the most ironic part in all this? This is what God is doing. If you want to take for a moment to externalize what God is. God is the all-knowing emptiness. It is the all-knowing emptiness which is fullness. It is so full it is empty. It's both at the same time. And it's holding so much. It's the realization of holding the entire universe together. Can you guys feel that? Can you feel the weight on your arms like Atlas? Like my dog Atlas here. You guys feel that burden of that? Oh my God, responsible for everything. All the prayers and everyone wanting something from me, and I'm just trying to hold it all together, right? So God comes here to escape. We escape into the story. It's like too much. I can't handle that. It's just too much. So I escape into these stories, these little random dreams, these momentary moments of something happening. Just to not think about that. Isn't that incredible? I mean, really, really try to absorb what I'm telling you here. It's deep. It's deep. Because you're it. If you can follow what I'm saying, and you can stand on this hilltop with me, and look over the vastness, you can recognize that it's all you, all of it, everything. There is no base reality. There never was a base reality. There's only dreaming forever and ever and ever. And these attachments to that dream is where all the suffering comes from. These expectations, these little ideas we've been putting into our mind since we were children of what we think happiness looks like. But we set these expectations that are just really, really hard to hit, aren't they? Why do we set these expectations that are so difficult to hit? So we can live and have life. That's why. If you made it easy, you'd be at the same gnosis very, very easily. When you realize your dreams, it's like the gig's up. You realize the truth, like, oh my gosh, I got my dreams, and now it didn't help. It didn't help. And that's cliche. You don't need me to tell you that. Anybody who's been successful will tell you that. And then the pressure's really on. Oh my gosh, what do you do now to make yourself happy when you can have anything? Boy, that's when it gets really tough. That's when it gets really tough. For me, it's about finding passions, things I can be passionate about. Sometimes it's music. At the moment, it's doing this channel with you. I don't have any expectations of where it goes. It's not about making a channel huge. I think it can be huge, but that's not why I'm doing this. It's just fun to do right now. I'm playing. So is Phi Tribe. Just making music because it's fun. It wasn't always like that for me. Everything was work. Everything was business. There was a time in my life I wouldn't even come into my playground. I wouldn't even come into this playground, this beautiful room, unless I was getting paid to do it. That's how serious I was taking everything, how serious I was taking life. Now I just play. When I feel like playing, I come in here and play. When I don't feel like playing, I don't play. I do something different. But I find things to be passionate about. I find ways to bring love into the world. Oh, that sounds so cheesy. Why would you want to bring love in the world? It's so boring. Love. What is love anyway? It's because I recognize that karma and how that works. The more loving I can be, guess what? The more love I'm going to get back. Why is that? Why is that? Because the world in front of your eyes is a reflection of who you become. It's always going to be that. So the more perfect you can be, the more loving you can be, the better your world's going to be. The better that will return to you. The better you'll receive that. And then that game is fun. That becomes a really fun game. Playing the game of, let me see if I can make this crabby waitress happy and smile by the end of the time she's done serving my meal. You guys ever play that game? That's a really fun game. Go to the market or whatever, and you got a cash register lady, and she's just clearly overworked, having a terrible day. And you've got about a minute and a half to say just a few things to put a smile on their face and make the whole experience go from a negative to a positive. You want to feel what power feels like? That? Feel power? That's what power feels like. That's power. When you can change a situation like that, you feel it fill you up. It's filling up your ego. You gotta be careful, but it fills you up. That joy is amazing. It's incredible. It's incredible. And it's very, very easy to do if you can just hold on to the view in your mind that you've had from the top of this mountain. What's the truth? None of it's real. The minute you leave that supermarket, it doesn't exist. It comes into existence the moment you go looking for it. How wild is that? So make it awesome. Make your dream awesome. You're the one creating it. Make it as amazing as you could possibly make it through your attitude and through your intention. Be God. You want to be God? Then act like it. And take responsibility for the things that you can do, and then forgive yourself for the things that you can't do. It doesn't mean to take on all of the burdens of the world. It's just to bring as much peace and love as you possibly can into your life and your experience. That's changing the world. That's enough. You don't have to go run out and save the whales and run off to Africa. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, but you're doing just as much by making your inner world peaceful and beautiful and happy and joyful. It's the same effect. How big do you want your world to be? I used to live in a really big house, a gigantic house, and it was ridiculous. I was married, but we didn't have children. We had dogs, but to have all these bedrooms and all this space. It was just insane, and it was the burden of trying to clean it was crazy, and all of the other stuff that comes with having a big house. It's kind of like that. How big do you want your house to be? How big do you want your world to be? I work very hard on making my world as small as I can make it. Nice, small little world. But everywhere I am in my little world is as perfect as I can possibly make it. I do everything in my power to make my world beautiful and happy and peaceful. It doesn't mean bad stuff doesn't happen. Of course it does. It's going to happen. The tests are going to happen. But it's just like meditation. Just when you're sitting there and you're doing your meditation, you're trying to put away the thoughts. You put the thoughts away. You put thoughts away. And you put thoughts away. And you say, no, I'm not going to think about that right now because I'm meditating. I'm worth more than this. This is my time. I'm putting that thought away. Putting that thought away. And then what happens after a couple minutes of doing that? The mind stops trying so hard. It kind of gives up and puts a thought through every once in a while. It's the same thing in life. It's the same thing. You bring love to the situation. Another scary situation will have. Just bring love to it. Then another scary situation will happen, and you just bring love to it. And then there's another bad situation, you bring love to that. And then eventually, life just goes, oh, well, here's some loving situations. Here you go, since you're making it so hard for me to torture you. That's power. That's power. There's more power in that than a Lamborghini. There's more power in that than being a senator or president or king of the world. Be a bubble of love everywhere you go, and watch how the world responds to you. It's very crazy. It's very spooky. Again, you gotta be careful not to let your ego wrap a hold into it. But people feel it. They feel you radiate this loving energy. They're attracted to it. They just feel it. They can't not sense that about you. And it's the same for all of you when you put it into practice. It's not just me. I used to be a complete up too, in a lot of ways. I still am. But I love that part of me. And I forgive that part of me. And I do everything I can to spread that love and spread that message and spread that feeling of peace to everyone who will hear it. Anyone interested in hearing it, I'm going to be chatting away about it. So this is where you take a deep breath in, and we're going to think about all of the cultural expectations that we've placed on ourselves. Because no one's done that to you. We've done it to ourselves. And we're going to itemize all the things that we think that we need to be happy. We're going to itemize all the things we think that we need to do to please other people. And we're going to say, all right, I don't have to do any of that stuff because I'm the center of the universe. What things out of here do I want to keep? What kind of things in this do make me feel good? Which of these things feels like love? And which of these things feels like just bolstering the ego? Thank you guys for showing up. We got a really nice crowd in here again tonight. So this is really kind of a simple one. If you guys have questions, I'd love to answer them. You know, I can go on and on about what it is to be a nihilist, but I think we all feel it. We all know what that's like. We're letting go of all that fear. It's a great acronym for fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. All those ideas of death, all those ideas of the meaningless of everything. Just let all of it go and see it as a dream. An infinite playground of dreams. And when you can center yourself and get to the top of this mountain and sit here with me, you can look out over the sea of dreams in every direction and pick the one of your choosing. Decide which one you want to be. And do that. And do that. What is love? It's a very good question, Lady Spellbreaker. Do we not feel love? Do you not feel it? You know, love has got an interesting component. It has two parts to it. It's one thing. It's the one thing that is... Everything has a dualism to it. Everything you can think of has got duality to it. A good and a bad way of looking at it. And there's nothing that doesn't, by being a word, it has to have a dual aspect, right? Because we're labeling it, we're cutting reality with our label. So when we slap the word love onto something, we've made something dual, right? But the thing about love is its two parts mean the same thing. When you cut love and we use love as a cutting tool, love has two forms which are the same, which is there's I love you so much, I just want to hold you and protect you and eat you up. I want to just have you become one with you. I want to hold you so tight and just become one with you. That's the kind of love, right? It's this trying to gather everything in. Always. This is what the ego is doing. It's trying to become love by owning everything, holding, bringing everything in, right? But there's also unconditional love. I love you so much, you can do anything in the world you want, and I still love you. I think that's how most parents feel about their kids, right? I know that's how I feel about my dog. He could poop all over this rug. I'd be pretty mad, but I'd be totally loving him. Unconditional, right? So either way you look at it, there's love. So I feel like when you ask what love is, you have to get a sense of that inside of you. You know? I think if you've had any experience at all in life, you kind of know what feels good and what doesn't feel good. You know what feels good to you and what doesn't feel good, and you can extrapolate that to get an idea of what feels good to other people and what doesn't feel good to other people. And just go for feeling good, but not at the expense of others feeling bad. Do me a favor, you guys, there's so much going on in here. If you have questions, put them in capital letters. That way I can see. Because I love that you guys are chatting so much, but it's hard for me to read them and answer questions. Oh, so Aries is the one who asked us first. What does love mean to you? It's not about what it means to me. What does it mean to you? To me, love and life are kind of like two sides of the same coin. Without life, there couldn't be love, right? You gotta be alive to love. And without love, there couldn't be life. So, for me, that love is to be regarded as on the same pedestal of life. If you cherish life, you should cherish love. And you should try to make love spread, the energy of love. You know? You want that energy to spread far and wide to all who will receive it. Now, that can be exhausting, because as soon as people start seeing that you're giving out free love, then it can deplete you really quick. This is where the balance comes in. The idea of the Holy Grail being your heart. It's the chalice of the heart. And we're all being filled up with love. And we're all suffering at the same time. But once you get a hold of this message and get a hold of the truth of things, it's kind of like you're repairing that part of you that's suffering. And when you can repair that, your chalice starts to overflow with love. There's just so much love. It just comes in. You've nourished yourself, and there's love overflowing. It's not leaking out of the bottom anymore. Now give that away. Give it away to everybody you can give it to, because you're completely filled with the spirit of love. You feel that. You feel that completeness, that feeling of being held. And you're completely held forever, even when it doesn't look like it, even when it doesn't feel like it. You're always held, because there is no death. And you give all that love away. And when it starts to deplete a little bit, well then, turn back into yourself and spoil yourself a little bit. And remind yourself that you're in a playground. It doesn't all have to be work. It doesn't all have to be about working on yourself. It doesn't all have to be about spiritual attainment. That's the ego getting a hold of that again, thinking it has to be something that comes in the future. Just bask in the love. If you can't feel the love right now in this present moment, what do you have to do to feel the love in this present moment? Ask yourself, what is required for you to feel held and feel loved in this moment? What does that look like? If it's something from the outside, realize the truth. If you're looking for someone or something to love you on the outside so that you can feel love, that's a reflection of what you're missing on the inside, which is loving yourself. So how can you love yourself more? What can you do to love yourself more? I mean, it's a really difficult problem, isn't it? Really difficult. Oh, God, the stress. How am I going to manage to love myself more? I just don't know how I could do it. That's all God wants from you. That's it. And you say, Ford, why do you say God wants for you? If you're God, why do you say that? When I say that, that's my way of keeping the nihilism at bay. Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this, and if you're not into Jordan Peterson, I recommend you watch his Bible study thing that he did, which is really fascinating because he's not a religious guy, and he went down the Bible over a long series of talks, and they're quite something to watch. Really, really amazing, mind-blowing talks. But he points out the same thing that Nietzsche would say, is just that the truth is, as Nietzsche says, the truth is that God is dead. You know, with this gnosis, this realization that you're it, then God is dead, right? And eventually, the entire world is going to catch on to this. Eventually, this awakening is going to take on, and everyone will be feeling this bliss of this. But then there's a weakness that comes from that, right? So if God is dead and nothing's expected of you, and we're just going to do whatever we want without consequence, can you see the weakness in that? So for that reason, I pretend that there's a God over me. You know, I call that my higher self. I call that the Father, as Christ would refer to it. But he also had the awareness to say the Father and I are one. The higher self and I are one. God and I are one. So that's what God wants for you. God wants you to experience love. That's your burden. Can you bring love into the world, into your world, and fill yourself up with so much love it has nowhere to go except overflowing into everyone else around you? And whatever reasons you've put as a blockade to that, whatever crazy thing you've made up as a reason why you don't deserve that, that's the stuff you got to work on. Those are the blocks. Those are the veils you got to get rid of to get in touch with the true you. Because God didn't put those blocks there. Do you know who put those blocks there? Bonus points for the first person to put it in the chat. Who put those blockades there? while I get a drink. The adversary. The adversary put those blocks there. The adversary doing its job to make your life miserable. Oh, here we go. What do you think happens after death? Reincarnation on a similar dream of space and time. Yes. We can think about it as reincarnation as thinking about it as you die in this, you die here as an adult, and then you're born again as a baby again. And we could say that happens, but really satsang is just to take the whole idea of the story of your life and throw it out the window. And for me, life begins and ends when I wake up in the morning and when I go to sleep at night. Okay? Like, there is no tomorrow for me. There is no yesterday for me. There's only what's happening now and today. I live for today. What's that song? Live for today? That's it. When I wake up in the morning, I find gratitude that I'm alive and here I am. And I find all the things that I'm grateful for, all the things that I can be loving and happy about. This is the first thing I do when I wake up. And I put my feet on the floor, but before my feet hit the floor, I say to myself, I know I'm about to put my feet on what feels like a floor, but it's not a floor. It's another dream. I'm just moving from one dream into a new dream, and this is the dream of today. And it's going to be awesome. And here we go, the dream of today, wherever it takes me. And if that dream of today takes you to work, make it the most awesome day at work ever. And the more awesome you can make it, little tiny bits at a time, each time, make it a little better, a little better, a little better, a little bit more love, a little bit more love, a little more love. Then suddenly, you wake up one day and your life looks like this. You just play. You're a kid. And it will happen for you. Don't think about what story brought my life to this. Don't think about that. None of that. It's all bullshit. What brought me to this place of being a permanent child is because I did it here and I did it here. It's this gnosis. It will happen for you too. As children, we enter the kingdom of heaven. I dare you. I double dog dare you to go to sleep tonight, be grateful for your day, and wake up tomorrow and to remind yourself that you're not going into life, you're going into another dream. Hold that attitude for a week and you will not believe the changes that happen in your life. You won't believe it. It'll blow your mind. Give peace a chance, as John Lennon says. Hold love in your heart for a week without expectation. Don't be like, I'm going to be loving so I can get something. All right, because then you're setting yourself up for failure. Just recognize that the world is what you make it. Whatever you put out is what your world is going to become more of. That's it. You like to be miserable? Then put out some misery. Start yelling at some people. Start getting picky about things. Start setting expectations and goals that you can't achieve. The world will get ugly real fast. Real fast. To meet those feelings. It's a harmonic. It's music. It can only be what is musically in line with who you've become. And if right now you're doing thrash metal, that's what your life looks like, that's what your life is going to become. But as soon as you start laying down some beautiful melodies, as simple as they want to be, they could just be the simplest melody. And the universe has no choice but to play a beautiful melody back to you. It's a symbiotic relationship you have with the world. You are the world. There's no you. You don't exist either. Only the dream exists. Only the dream. What we're talking about here is being the dream master. I love celebrating that too. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. The dream of love. So true, Gareth. Definitely. Right on. You guys are so awesome. I love hanging out with you guys so much. It's the best crowd on the internet. The best playmates ever. Awesome. Well, I'm going to cut it kind of early tonight unless you guys have some more questions. The last couple that I've done here have gone kind of long, so I'm making up for it. Yes, it's all reverb. Yes, exactly. Yes. Echo, 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 echo. And reverb. So true. So true. And I love you guys very much. Thank you again for all the support over on Phi Tribe. And that music over there is definitely keeping my dream very miraculous. So thank you very much. And by the way, this song that you're listening to right now is a new song. This one is for quieting the mind. It's for stopping all of the brain chatter. So this is going to come out tomorrow night on the Phi Tribe. And you guys are hearing it first on here. How special are you, huh? This is like the VIP room to Phi Tribe. It's pretty cool. Thank you guys very much. I love you guys very, very much. See you guys.